Hello, friends. Welcome back. My name is Octavia, and this is my astrology podcast. This is part two of a two-part episode that I'm releasing about the new moon in Pisces happening on Wednesday, March 2nd. That's Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And this is the part two segment of the video slash podcast. So in this piece, I'm going to be describing a bit more about the context of this new moon happening within the framework of the U.S. natal Pluto return. So the other significant thing about this new moon is that Venus is leaving shadow at 27 degrees. She's leaving shadow, right? And this is, of course, 27 degrees of Capricorn is the U.S. Pluto natal Pluto point. Now, it's interesting because Venus is leaving shadow and on that degree at the same time as the new moon in Pisces. So there's this simultaneous feeling we're going to have that's going to come in about moving forward and letting go all at once. And it's, I think there's some things that can relate to this in a bigger sense with things like crypto, Web 2 and Web 3, and so on and so forth. But I think that this is really profound that Venus is finally moving forward at this degree. I think there's going to be some stuff go on in the States. I don't really like to make predictions, but it'll be interesting to see what comes of this stateside. Earlier this month in February, we had the shares plummeting at Facebook, $232 billion in a day, and this was on the 3rd of February. The biggest one-day drop in value in the history of the U.S. stock market. And, it's interesting because this is part of it, the Pluto return, and also the distinction that's being made now between Web 2 and Web 3. Web 2 being more about, Web 2 has been the one that we are all kind of nauseous and done with because it's so, problematic on a lot of levels because it consists of a small group of tech giants like Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, who basically are have all of our data and they're selling it. Businesses and folks have all had to lose privacy essentially without their consent. So Web 3 is going to be more user specific and ensure data security and privacy and avoid the risks of internet hacking that we've had in Web 2. And Web 3 is going to be based upon the blockchain technology. So this is what crypto is based on. And this is what's going to give us, transparency, anonymity, and it's decentralized. So we're not going to have a centralized authority or bank making all the decisions. It's going to be all based on a ledger that is online and it's available for anyone to see at any time, and it's controlled and updated by individuals. So, and there's no way to cheat, basically. And that's why crypto is taking hold, because we are removing the middleman, if you will. Same with NFTs. This is why NFTs are, I think, such a big thing right now because, and speaking from my own experience as a working artist, for the first time now in history, artists are actually able to produce their work and to sell directly to whoever wants to buy it and actually get the royalties if that person later on decides to resell it, which is unprecedented in the realm of art and for working artists. So there's a lot more to say about NFTs, but I think what this all boils down to, and I actually wanted to also point to this article here about this, the brand Carhartt, and this store that went out of business. It's really unfortunate. 100-year-old store. symbolizing the American worker. It went under actually on December 31st of 2020, which was within a week of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius. So, this is the end of an era. This is what Pluto and, final degrees of Capricorn is about. It's like the old paradigm is about physical labor, and it's usually labor that you're doing for someone else. And, this new paradigm, it's not about hard labor. It's about bandwidth and, blockchain technology. It's about decentralized infrastructure. And so this is a shift that's very exciting. And, I think that getting into crypto and NFTs, it reminds me of like the difference between buying IKEA furniture and versus buying furniture from like a furniture store, I guess. You get involved in crypto NFT stuff, and you're the one that has to kind of figure it out. And there's something really rewarding about that. There's something really empowering about that. And I think it's an exciting shift that's happening. And for me, when I left the States, initially, I ended up losing my debit card. And I was overseas. I had a Bank of America card at the time, and I needed a replacement. And I was actually in Australia. I rang them up. I said, "Hey, I'm overseas. I really need my card replaced." And they said, "Oh, you're not in the U.S. Well, we can't send you a replacement." And I said, "What? That's a joke." They said, "No, we can send it to someone within the continuous United States, and then they can send it to you." And I thought, you got to be kidding me. But but they wouldn't do it. And so this was when my first experience with Bitcoin, with crypto, was actually in that situation because I couldn't get a card replacement, and I had PayPal, and I needed to convert currency, and I found someone, an individual who was able to turn it into Bitcoin, and then I was able to turn it into, this was in 2016, so there's a lot of apps now that will do all of this very easily, I've learned, but Bitcoin really saved me at that point in my journey, and, it opened my eyes to this. So I want to just take you guys through the next few days here visually with the chart and just walk you through the timeline here. So here we are, 26th. So the moon enters Capricorn, and I just wanted to speak about this in brief and say that when the moon is in Capricorn, it's a great time to... The moon doesn't really function all that well in Capricorn. It's the moon rules Cancer, so it's in its fall in Capricorn. So the way I like to think of moon in Capricorn moments is like when, you may have a lot going on emotionally, but like you just go to work and you just do what you need to do. And sometimes it can feel like a relief to kind of leave everything at home or, in your emotional realm and just focus on doing stuff, getting work done, whatever that entails. So I think that that's going to be really nice, particularly after the moon has gone through. We've had this big Scorpio moon transit and then Sag here with the South Node also. And so, probably a fair amount of stuff that we're letting go and contending with, and then feeling quite liberated from it and coming back down to earth here in the practicals as of this weekend on Saturday. So from here, I'm just going to jump forward because the moon gets closer here to our friends in late degrees of Capricorn, Venus, Mars, and Pluto. And so yeah, this is early Sunday morning. This is happening. And the moon's going to trine Uranus here. So this is just a nice build-up, I think, of forward momentum, of being able to do practical things toward whatever it is that's we're, kind of addressing here in our Capricorn part of our charts. And then on Monday, Tuesday, the moon will be in Aquarius. And here we have, so the moon's going to conjoin Mercury, and then later that day it'll conjoin Saturn. And the way that I think that this will be really helpful as well, because here we see the the sun's at 10 degrees, and we've got the moon here. So the moon's on its way to the sun for the new moon. And so whatever is coming up for us in these days leading up to it, while the moon is moving through Capricorn, and while we are in this sort of practical frame of mind, where it's not necessarily suppressing emotional stuff, but it's being able to delegate, to know, it's that Saturn ability to discern what needs to be addressed now and what can wait, and what is, what's the best use of the time. And, once the moon goes into Aquarius, again, the moon isn't thrilled in these signs, but it is a helpful lead up, I think, because as we go through this process in Capricorn and Aquarius, it's going to show us a lot about what isn't working. And especially with this lead up into the end of this week on the 6th. So when Mars and Venus are going to actually leave Capricorn at the same time, this is just the very last tail end of like cleaning the kitchen and like, doing that last little 5%, wiping down the benches, and, the stuff that's like, it just is the last bits and pieces. And whatever isn't working in these days leading up to this, the new moon is about letting go. And because of that, I think we just, it would be wise for us to just pay attention, in these days leading up to it while the moon is moving through Capricorn and Aquarius, because it will give us a sense of what's to come, because Mercury is going to be conjoining Saturn here. They're already 2 degrees apart, which is very close, here on March 1st on Tuesday. And this is about, Aquarius is a bit of a rebel, a bit of a, I'm going my own way, and I'm not really that bothered by what anyone thinks about it. And so there may be some decisions that go against the grain of, what it is that's expected of you, what it is that you've been told, and what has been expected of you up to this point. And there may be something or multiple things that are just no longer sustainable. Saturn is about what endures and what is has longevity, and seeing things through to the end. And so we can look at this Mercury. So I'll just jump forward so you can see. So here we have Mercury coming in to join Saturn as the moon is on its way out of Aquarius. And again, the moon is our feeling realm. And I think while the moon, as I said, doesn't function all that well in these signs because they're Saturn-ruled signs, Saturn is about slowing down and separating, and Saturn's very cold and dry. And the moon likes things very, connected and lush and yummy. So there is this, relationship where the moon isn't its happiest in these signs. However, I think that there will still be an indication to us as the moon is moving through them. We'll get some pieces of information about what we will need to know that we're ready to let go of on the new moon. And of course, this is what the new moon is all about, particularly in Pisces. Here we are. So this is early AM hours on Thursday, the 3rd. So I'm just going to back it up a few hours because we'll feel it the night before on the 2nd. It's just exact early that morning. So here we have the new moon on its way. And so we have this triple conjunction here, Mercury and Saturn. And, I think that, again, this is the second house of the U.S. chart. So this is the second house of money. And, this is where the ideas of, all this inflation stuff. And when Pluto went into Capricorn, back in 2008, as I said, and we had the financial collapse and the banks were bailed out, Capricorn is about institutions outside authority. It's about patriarchal, top-down, zero-sum game frameworks. And I think if there's anything in your life, if there's any dynamic in your life where you're getting bullied, where you're getting pushed around, where you have not been able to be fully in your truth for whatever reason, this is a moment where you're gonna have that extra ability to. This is the moment to stand up for yourself and to shift that. And it's really tough because in order to do this, in order to stand up and show up for ourselves, we have to actually believe in ourselves enough to do it. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes the stories of the past are louder and more familiar than a new story. And, a different response would create that new story. So, and I think there's still this relationship I've been banging on about how, because back when Mercury entered shadow and Venus and Pluto came together at the end of December of 2021, on the same day that Jupiter entered Pisces, this is washing away what we are done with, that's crumbled. And so I think, and with the US chart, it's interesting because the 4th house is Pisces. And, it's that whole thing of everybody's welcome, give me you're poor, you're tired, you're hungry, all that stuff. And that's in the US chart. Let's just have a look here. So yeah, in the US chart, that's the 4th house. And it's a bit at odds too with Neptune in Virgo here, the US Neptune. And see, we have Neptune in Pisces at the moment as well in the sky, in an opposition to the US Neptune. And so in the 10th house of career. So there's a bit of contention here between, and this is something I think, in my opinion, that can translate globally, between, being really specific and looking at the details of what our career point, our career landscape, if you will, our options, what they are. We have the 4th house is home and foundations on a individual level, and for the U.S. it's the foundational sort of values and the ethos and culture that the U.S. instills. So, and everything, I've often heard it put that whatever's in the 4th house, it either supports and uplifts the 10th of career, or it drags it down into, if the support is lacking, then the 4th house, the instability there can actually drain, and it can prevent the 10th house from rising and thriving. And because the U.S. has the U.S. dollar is the global backed currency, and the fact that the fiat currency, now I'm not an expert, I meant to say this way earlier, but I'm not an expert. Okay, so, astrology is weird. I go into a lot of different things that I learn about and pick up along the way. So I'm by no means an expert on, the financial realm or history or any of these things. So based on what I do understand about all of this, is that because the US dollar, this fiat currency, up until around the time that FDR was putting the New Deal in place, so that was when there was a separation between the gold standard actually being what was backing the US dollar. And so now, ever since then, the money is just getting printed. And so there's no longer that direct relationship between the gold standard and then the money reflecting that currency. And so this is what leads me into topics like crypto and NFTs, because the central banking system has continued to print money, and inflation's gotten higher and higher. And I have no doubt that this is related to this Pluto return, because when Pluto transits any planet in the chart, especially a Pluto return, it dredges up everything that is not promoting life, everything that is not working, that will not work anymore, like at any reasonable capacity moving forward. And this is where Pluto is ruthless. It's Kali from from Hindu lineage. So it's just this creation and destruction. And if whatever is there and whatever under the surface that's been hiding in the financial realm, it's a really wild thing for me as an American to be in Australia, to see all this happening from the outside, learning about this stuff because of the astrology. The astrology leads me to what I need to see when I need to see it. And so, but to understand now what I do based on the research I've done around US currency, that the only reason it has any value is because everyone believes it, and not because it's actually worth that. And this is a very significant fact, and I think we're coming out of the age of Pisces, we're coming into the age of Aquarius, and there's only so much that a false belief will get us in terms of value, and it's really sobering for me as an American to see all this happening from the outside and to see how it affects everything globally as well. I hope that this has been helpful. I'm going to be speaking more about all of these things really soon. And yeah, for this new moon, guys, I think it's okay to let go. It's okay to change things up. And, it's just going to be a process. And I think that after the new moon happens, the sun and Jupiter are going to conjoin. And that's going to be like the luckiest day of the year by far. And the other part of the new moon that I think is a really beautiful influence for us to make the most of is Mercury conjoining Saturn. So any contracts that you need to sign, any paperwork, like if you're signing up for a course, if you're releasing a course yourself that you've created, anything like that with Mercury conjoining Saturn, and especially we're going to have Mars and Venus coming into Aquarius this coming weekend as well on the other side of this new moon. So let go, and then put what's working, put it in motion, make it real, do whatever you need to do to make it happen, because the planets are really rooting for you here. And this is one of those moments where there's really no limit to what's possible. So I think that's it, guys. Thanks so much for being here, and have a beautiful week. Until next time, stay safe, well, and wise.